Greetings everyone, my name is Max, and today I will be joining you to examine another terrible case. On September 22, 2020, Maria Muñoz, a vibrant young woman, passed away tragically, shocking her loved ones. The neighborhood was perplexed as to who could have committed such a heinous act, so they were astonished to learn that Maria's own husband was the surprising suspect. Everyone who knew Maria well was astonished and saddened by the revelation of a web of lies and deceit as the details came to light. Everyone was astonished by the shocking tragedy that occurred in the busy state of Texas. Maria Muñoz was a vibrant young lady with big hopes who met a tragic end that had a profound effect on her friends and family. Many were shocked by the circumstances surrounding her untimely death on September 22, 2020, particularly as suspicions pointed to her own spouse as a potential suspect. When test reports revealed she had 7 different substances in her system, the story took a grim turn. It's also difficult to accept that Maria's journal served as crucial evidence in the murderer's capture. It's absurd to suppose that one of Maria's notes was crucial to cracking the case. Secrets started to come to light as the investigation went on, providing a side of the story that no one had anticipated. Marisol Rodriguez and Jorge Luis Muñoz had 3 children total when Maria Muñoz was born on January 25, 1989. She was raised in a loving and energetic family in Puerto Rico, but she experienced an early tragedy when her mother died. She also met Joel Pellet at that same period. In spite of this adversity, Maria assumed the responsibility of looking after her siblings, Peter Hernandez and Marisol Muñoz. Maria's native Puerto Rico is where she and Pellet initially met. Pellet was a bright young nursing student at the time, and Maria was a registered nurse as well. Maria and Pellet were married in 2011 despite the 11-year age difference between them. They later relocated to Laredo, Texas, where Pellet earned a large salary in a respected role as a nurse anesthetist at a nearby hospital. With their newly acquired financial security, they could now live an opulent lifestyle with fancy automobiles and lavish trips. Maria Muñoz, 31, and her husband Joel Pellet, 42, were full-time residents of Laredo, Texas, where she raised their 2 young sons. She quit her work to better care for her kids. Maria was a devoted stay-at-home mother who loved her 2 small boys. She demonstrated her commitment to being a mother by taking them to the park every day to play and read to them before bed. She delighted in spending time with her kids at home, but she also cherished her pastime of playing the piano. She was happy being a stay-at-home mother, but she never gave up on her dream of going back to school and becoming a nurse. Things in their relationship seemed to be going well for a while. Pellet would frequently show his friends and co-workers photos of his wife and kids while gushing about how amazing they were. Behind closed doors, though, a new narrative was developing. Not long after Maria gave birth to their second kid in 2018, people who knew Pellet well noticed a change in his demeanor. He changed dramatically, putting on muscle and dropping weight. In addition, he started to interact with other women more and more, acting flirtatiously and out of character for a married man. He started posting images of himself by himself on social media, deleting ones with his wife and kids. His online behavior changed, giving the idea that he was living a single life, free from the obligations and responsibilities of a married man raising a family. Co-workers noticed that year that Pellet was growing closer to Janae Arando, a surgical nurse. Gradually, it emerged that they had both initiated a covert liaison, engaging in an extramarital romance behind Maria's back. However, Maria's worst nightmares came true at the beginning of 2020 when she discovered that Pellet had purchased airline tickets for both Janet and himself to visit Europe. Maria became depressed and heartbroken upon learning this. She felt deceived because she had trusted him and believed their marriage was solid. When Maria discovered that the life they had spent 10 years creating together was a deception, she was distraught. She felt lost and alone and didn't know how to go. She went to a therapist for support during her emotional breakdown in order to deal with the heartbreaking facts about her marriage. Medication was recommended by the therapist to help Maria through her mental health issues. Maria started keeping diaries at this time to help her process her feelings and ideas. Things between Pellet and Maria quickly deteriorated. When Maria visited Janet on September 19, 2020, she noticed Pellet's vehicle sitting in the driveway. At the house, she approached them, and when he emerged, Maria forced him to decide between Janet and her. He said that he would pick Janet. Janet contacted the police during the altercation, but by the time they got there, Maria and Pellet had already departed. While Maria was traveling with Pellet, the cops phoned her and overheard him ranting at her. He smashed a hole in Maria's car's windshield after they arrived home, which was a frightening show of might and rage. On Sunday, September 20th, the next morning, Maria texted Pellet to let him know she was planning to get legal assistance to help them work things out. But in response, he said he thought it would be too expensive to involve lawyers in handling this. It seems that he had changed his mind a few hours following their text discussion. He expressed his intense inner conflict and profound anguish to Maria via email. He expressed in the email that he would like to have an open and non-argumental discussion with Maria. In response to his email, Maria responded, "I am so sad. I am hurting inside. I want to sit down with you to talk without arguing, heart to heart." They decided to meet at roughly 5 p.m., September 21st, Monday, the following evening. She messaged her friend Yasmin Martinez about their upcoming meeting today because she was really anxious before going to see him. She uttered these words, "I just ask if you can pray for me." Sadly, her requests were not granted, and the encounter came to an awful end. Pellet called 911 in a panic on September 22nd, 2020, claiming that his wife could have taken some prescription medication and was not breathing. At approximately 1:40 a.m., Officer De La Cruz arrived at Pellet's residence first, and his body cam captured every detail as well. Pellet was located by the main bedroom, next to the top of the stairs, by the officer. He was performing CPR on his wife while still donning his green medical scrubs. In the nearby rooms slept their 2 sons. The paramedics took over performing CPR on Maria as soon as they arrived. As paramedics were frantically trying to save Maria's life, another officer came up to Pellet and asked what medications she had allegedly taken. Pellet went to an adjacent restroom without thinking, opened the medication cabinet, and found a bottle. He gave it to the police, who subsequently found out it was a prescription for clonazepam, a benzodiazepine drug used to treat epilepsy, acute anxiety, and panic attacks. Clonazepam and other benzodiazepines produce a calming effect by slowing down the nervous system. The officer looked at the bottle and saw that Pellet, not Maria, was the one who was prescribed the tablets. The fact that the pill bottle was back in the medicine cabinet was another thing that attracted the officer's attention. When someone overdoses, the pill bottle is usually located close to the victim. Pellet then picked up the pill container from the floor and put it in his pocket, as seen on body cam footage. De La Cruz asked himself why he was going to get the tablets back. Is there something he's hiding? Pellet was further suspicious because De La Cruz discovered a needle catheter in the couple's residence on the stairs. He thought this was strange. There were issues regarding the presence of a needle on the stairs because Pellet and Maria had 2 small children. But that's not all. More than just a needle was found by investigators. Syringes and IV supplies were also found, neatly packaged in a medical bag. The existence of these medical instruments outside of a professional context prompted significant considerations for the investigators, even though this result could appear normal considering Pellet's occupation as an anesthetic nurse. Pellet told the authorities that Maria had been experiencing severe despair lately, despite this uncommon situation. He clarified that she had been using the drugs to try to deal with her overwhelming emotions since her mental health had been failing. Thus, Maria was not able to be revived despite the efforts of the first responders. As unbelievable as it seems, but by 3:58 a.m., she was declared deceased that day. Officers took Pellet downstairs to the kitchen for more interrogation after Maria was pronounced dead. Then he told the officers that he had met with Maria that day to have a talk. Following their conversation, they had an intimate moment before he showered. When he came out of the shower, Maria was fast sleeping. There was no explanation given for why he went downstairs for a time. Upon going back upstairs, he found Maria was unconscious and had stopped breathing. The police noted Pellet's peculiar conduct as they were conversing. He was literally unable to respond to basic inquiries regarding the occurrence due to his profuse perspiration. Additionally, the officer noted that Pellet was perspiration greater than all those in attendance, including the first responder who had spent the previous 2 hours attempting to save Maria's life. Officers became much more wary of him as a result. Sergeant Luis Mata then brought him to the police station for more interrogation. Before an officer entered the interrogation room at the police station, Pellet was left alone for a time. Every move he made was captured on camera. Officers were taken aback by how quickly Pellet lost his mind after seeing the video. He began to smash the walls, yell, cry, and hurl furniture around the room. People in the surrounding rooms and hallway were alarmed by his loud and uncontrollable behavior, as they could hear his words coming from his room. Sergeant Luis Matt, an officer, therefore entered the room at 4 a.m. to speak with Pellet. He revealed again what had happened before Maria passed away during this talk. Surprisingly, he also admitted to the police that he had dated Janet, another lady. He disclosed that, at the time of Maria's passing, he had really moved out of the family house 5 months prior and was living with her. He revealed that by that point, he and Janet had been dating for 2 years, and Maria had long been aware of their connection. He claims that he went to the family house the evening before Maria passed away to talk to her about their marriage. They had a talk, and then got personal. He claimed that although he had assumed Maria was asleep in her room, he sadly discovered that she was not breathing when he went back to check on her after just 10 minutes. Later, he admitted to the police that he had given Maria the clonazepam prescription he had been given in order to aid her with her anxiety and sadness. He was unable to tell the police how much medication she had taken or how many pills were still in the bottle before she took them, though. Sadly, he was unable to offer any more details that would have helped to make things clearer. He was released following all of the interrogation. Thus, Maria's autopsy was the next to be performed. It was just 8 hours after her death, quite soon, that the autopsy was performed. Given the timing, her stomach contents should still include the cause of her death. A startling discovery was made from the autopsy data as the investigation into Maria's death progressed. Despite early fears, there were no pill remnants found in her stomach. A little red stain on the inside of her elbow, however, revealed a startling hint in the medical examiner's report. The fact that it was a pinprick mark was even more startling. Her arm had a faint red mark on it that raised the possibility that she had received an injection. Investigators looked into the significance of this mark and its possible relationship to her death after making this unexpected finding. Before long, the detectives retrieved something else from Maria's home. What then was that? At Maria's place, a journal was discovered. As previously noted, she began journaling to assist her deal with her anxiety and sadness, and that journal proved to be quite helpful to the investigators in identifying the culprit. Thus, the information they discovered in that magazine was quite painful. She recorded her experiences and feelings in her journal. The investigators learned from Maria's notes that she loved her husband and wished to maintain their family, even though she understood that he preferred to be with someone else. When Pellet departed their Laredo home and left her to take care of their 2 young sons, Maria wrote in her journals, "I want it to stop. My past haunts me, and I don't want to be sad anymore." Her cell phone recordings and diary, which chronicled her emotional journey from loss to healing and a renewed sense of hope for the future, were crucial in assisting investigators in determining her husband's abusive behavior. The day before her untimely death, Maria Muñoz wrote in her journal, "What is it that I want? Number 1, move forward." Her entries that day demonstrated her desire to live and move forward with her life. "My heart says one thing. My mind says something else. I am in this constant battle, tug of war. I want it to stop, but they won't. They keep me sad, and those are my tears. My future is foggy and unclear. My past haunts me, and my present is confusing. Lord, hear me cry, see my tears, feel my pain. Bring me laughter, bring me peace, and bring me happiness again. I don't want to be sad anymore. I don't want my heart to hurt. Suicide or any plans to end her life were not mentioned. Thus, after reviewing her journal, the investigators concluded that she was not suicidal. For them to truly comprehend what transpired, further details were required. What followed was that the results of the autopsy were shared with Pet's former employer, anesthesiologist Dr. John Hunsinger. His suspicions were communicated to Dea Cruz, the lead detective assigned to the case. It was suggested by Dr. Hunsinger that the investigators carry out a thorough toxicology check. They thus took that action. Investigators Sergeant Louis Matt and Dea Cruz got the eagerly anticipated results of the toxicological test in January 2021. Maria's blood contained no clonazepam, despite Pellet's assertion to the contrary. But the toxicology report also included the startling discovery that 7 more medicines were present: morphine, Demerol, Versed, Propofol, ketamine, Lian, and Naran. These drugs are frequently utilized during surgical procedures. During surgical procedures, propofol and ketamine are frequently injected intravenously for their hypnotic and pain-relieving effects. Many nurses and other medical professionals may never come into touch with pharmaceuticals like propofol and ketamine unless they work directly in anesthesiology, and the majority of people cannot easily obtain these drugs. The investigators' most startling discovery was the presence of propofol in Maria's body. Because of his occupation as a nurse anesthetist, the investigators reasoned that Pellet would have access to propofol. Dr. Hunsinger, a Pellet employee with prior propofol usage experience, stated that the amount in Maria's system was the largest he had ever seen. Based on this, the physicians were convinced that Maria's death was specifically caused by propofol, because Pellet would be aware of the right dosage to induce unconsciousness or overdose. Furthermore, there was a tiny mark on Maria's arm that suggested she might have had an injection. Pellet's strange behavior, the toxicological analysis, and Maria's journal, according to the investigators, provided them with sufficient evidence to take Pellet into custody for his wife's murder. Thus, officials obtained an arrest warrant for Pellet rather quickly. Without any delay, De La Cruz rushed to arrest Pellet. Almost as if he had known and accepted his inevitable fate, he surprisingly did not resist being taken into custody. As soon as he was brought to the police station, the inquiry entered a new phase, and he was ready to be questioned once more regarding the circumstances of Maria Muñoz's untimely death. He was forced to deal with the fallout from his horrible deed. Therefore, on March 23, 2023, the trial began. Both the prosecution and the defense made their cases as the court case progressed. Maria Muñoz's journal entries were used by Maria's team, an all-female prosecution squad, to build a strong case against Pellet. In order to demonstrate to the jury the kind of wife and mother Maria was, this was done. Maria is a smart, kind, and wonderful mother, according to the prosecutors. Through the pages of her notebook, they conveyed how they felt about her lively spirit. Prosecutors believed at the trial that Pellet had first poisoned Maria by adding something to her drink to induce slumber. He gave her a propofol injection in her arm after she lost consciousness. Pellet allegedly waited a long time before dialing 911 in order to prevent first responders from being able to revive her when they arrived, according to the prosecution. The journals, according to the prosecutors, gave them a better understanding of the difficulties Maria encountered, which strengthened their resolve to bring about justice in her case. Roberto Bali, Pet's attorney, told the jury during the closing arguments that his client wished to reconcile with his wife, Maria Muñoz, prior to her demise. Bali brought up the medical examiner's report, which stated that Maria's cause of death was still unknown, to the jury. He informed them that there wasn't enough evidence to prove Pellet killed her. Bali brought up the fact that the night Maria passed away, Pellet had given her a medication called Naran, which reverses overdoses. He went on to say that Muñoz and Pellet both battled drug addiction. Bali further contended that Maria Muñoz showed no symptoms of force. indicating that she took the medications voluntarily and free of coercion. But after looking into Maria's acquaintances, family, and social circles, it was evident that she wasn't a drug addict and that Pellet was the only one who could have given her that amount of propofol. Additionally, Janet Arredondo, a surgical nurse who was Pellet's lover, was persuaded to testify against him by the authorities. He had admitted to her, she said, that he had given Maria something to help her relax, and he had brought drugs, including propofol, home from work. The jury arrived at a decision in less than 1 hour. Finally, on March 30th, 2023, a jury found Pellet guilty of killing his wife, Maria, following a 9-day trial. April 27, 2023. For the murder conviction, Pellet was given a life sentence, an extra 10 years, and a $10,000 fine for tampering with the evidence. Where is Pellet today then? Joel Pellet is presently dealing with the consequences of his horrible deeds by serving a life term in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. His incarceration serves as a somber memorial to Maria's life and a symbol of accountability, guaranteeing that her legacy will be preserved via the pursuit of justice and the truth. Although Joel Pellet's motivation for killing his wife, Maria Muñoz, is not known, the prosecution claims that it stemmed from his desire to divorce Maria Muñoz and be with his lover, Janet Arredondo. Justice had to be done in the end, and the decision made sure Pellet was made to answer for his deeds. This terrible tragedy has some closure thanks to the jury's verdict, which also confirms that such horrible deeds will not go unpunished. The conviction emphasizes how crucial it is to protect justice and makes it abundantly evident that those who commit these kinds of crimes will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.